I took the job because I needed $8,000 before April and because nobody else wanted to spend January through March alone on a rock jutting into the Bering Sea. The advertisement specified winter caretaker, lighthouse maintenance, basic mechanical aptitude required, housing provided. The pay was listed as $12,000 for the 3-month contract. When I called, the woman who answered asked only 3 questions. Could I operate a diesel generator? Did I have any medical conditions that required regular intervention? And was I comfortable with isolation? I said yes, no, and yes. She told me to be at the harbor in Dutch Harbor on the 4th of January at 6 in the morning. The boat ride took 4 hours. The captain was a man named Vern who spent most of the trip checking his instruments and drinking coffee from a steel thermos. He pointed out Barrow Point when we were still 2 miles out, a narrow thrust of black rock with the lighthouse perched at the high end like a white tooth. The structure was older than I'd expected, stone and mortar beneath layers of industrial paint, with a light tower that rose maybe 60 feet above the keeper's quarters. Ice clung to the northern face in thick sheets. Vern nosed the boat up to a concrete pier that had been poured into a natural notch in the rock. He handed me 2 duffel bags and a sealed plastic crate while I stood on the pier, then passed up a canvas sack of mail and a wooden box marked perishable in red stencil. Supply drop every 2 weeks unless the weather turns, he said. Radio check every 3 days on channel 16. You got the frequency list? I held up the laminated card the woman had mailed me. Good. Don't lose it. He untied the stern line. Keys are in the lockbox, codes on your paperwork. Anything else I should know? Vern looked at the lighthouse, then at me. Abram left a manual. Read it twice before your first night. He pushed off before I could ask who Abram was. The lockbox was mounted beside the keeper's door, a steel safe with a numeric keypad filmed with salt. I punched in the 6-digit code and the door popped open. Inside were 3 keys on a brass ring, a folded radio checklist, and a white envelope with my name written in blue ink. I pocketed everything and carried my gear inside. The keeper's quarters occupied the base of the lighthouse, a main room with a kitchenette and wood stove, a bedroom barely large enough for a cot and a dresser, and a bathroom with a composting toilet and a gravity-fed shower. Everything smelled like diesel and old wool. A spiral staircase led up through the center of the tower. I counted 92 steps to the light room. The light itself was a Fresnel lens the size of a refrigerator suspended on a motorized turret. Control panels lined the walls, breaker boxes, fuel gauges, diagnostic readouts, a radio transceiver bolted to a steel shelf. The windows were thick glass set in iron frames. I could see the entire perimeter of the island from up there. Maybe 300 yards of rock in any direction, no trees, no soil, just stone and ice and the gray churn of the sea. I went back down and unpacked my duffel bags. The envelope was still in my pocket. I opened it at the kitchenette table. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper covered in handwritten text. At the top, in block letters, Operational Guidelines Winter Term. Below that, a numbered list. 1. The light operates on an automatic timer from 1800 to 0600 hours. Do not adjust the timer. Do not extinguish the light manually unless the tower is on fire. 2. Perform generator maintenance every 3rd day between 1000 and 1200 hours. Check oil, coolant, fuel reserves, and exhaust seals. Record all readings in the log. 3. Conduct a full perimeter walk every morning beginning at 0730. Stay within 20 yards of the tower at all times. Count your steps outbound and inbound. The count should match. 4. If you hear knocking after 2200 hours, do not answer the door. If you hear your name called from outside after 2200 hours, do not respond. If you hear both in the same night, go to the light room and remain there until dawn. 5. The radio transceiver in the light room is for official communication only. Channel 16 for supply coordination, Channel 9 for emergency contact. Do not use the transceiver between 0200 and 0400 hours. If you hear transmission during this window, do not respond and do not acknowledge the content. 6. There is a red footlocker in the storage closet. It is locked. Do not attempt to open it. Do not move it. If you find it unlocked, close it immediately without looking inside, then go to the light room and radio channel 9. 7. Weather permitting, a supply boat will arrive every 14 days. Vern will sound the horn 3 times when approaching the pier. If you hear the horn but count fewer or more than 3 blasts, do not go to the pier. Remain inside with the door locked until the next scheduled supply date. 8. If you see a figure standing on the rocks during your perimeter walk, note its position but do not approach. If the figure is still there on your return walk, go inside immediately and do not perform another perimeter walk until the following day. 9. The basement door is at the rear of the main room beneath the stairs. It is locked. Do not unlock it. If you find it open, close it, lock it, and radio channel 9 immediately. 10. You may see lights on the water at night. This is normal. Do not signal them. Do not watch them for more than 30 seconds continuously. 11. At 03:15 every morning, check the fuel gauge on the generator. If the reading is below 1/4, refill from the reserve tank immediately. Do not delay this task. 12. If you smell smoke but see no fire, check all seals on the generator exhaust. If the seals are intact, leave the tower and remain outside until the smell dissipates. Do not go to the basement. 13. Keep the kitchen window curtain closed between sunset and sunrise. If you forget and open it after dark, close it immediately, then verify that all exterior doors are locked. 14. At the end of your term, leave this list on the table for your replacement. Add any amendments you consider necessary. Be specific. I read the list a second time, then I check the date on the radio checklist. Abram's last scheduled contact had been December 31st. My first supply drop was listed for January 18th. I folded the paper and set it on the table. Then I went upstairs to the light room and checked the fuel gauge, 3/4. I made a note in the logbook, January 4th, 1422. Fuel at 75, generator running normal. Then I went back downstairs and started a fire in the wood stove. The first night was quiet. I ate canned stew heated on the stovetop. Read through the maintenance manual. Vern had mentioned a 3-ring binder with oil-stained pages and hand-drawn diagrams, then climbed the stairs to the light room at 1700 hours to watch the automatic timer engage. The Fresnel lens began its slow rotation at exactly 1800, casting a bright white beam across the water in 12-second intervals. I stayed up there for an hour, watching the light sweep across the ice-crusted rocks, then went down to the bedroom and lay on the cot with my boots still on. At 2200 hours, I heard the first knock. It was a single deliberate strike against the exterior door, wood on wood, the kind of knock you make when you expect someone to answer. I was sitting at the table with the maintenance manual open in front of me. I looked at the door. The knock did not repeat. I waited 5 minutes, then 10, then went to the bedroom and closed the door behind me. I did not sleep. For a long time. The next morning I performed my first perimeter walk. The sun was only a pale smudge on the horizon, but there was enough light to see the rocks clearly. I started at the base of the tower and walked a slow spiral outward, counting my steps. The rocks were slick with ice in places, dry and rough in others. I saw no footprints, no disturbances, nothing but stone and frozen lichen. At 20 yards I stopped, turned, and walked back, counting again. 73 steps out, 73 steps in. I checked the generator at 1000 hours. Oil level normal. Coolant temperature within range. Fuel reserve at 86%. I recorded everything in the log and returned to the main room. The red footlocker was exactly where Abram had said it would be, shoved into the back of the storage closet beside a stack of wool blankets. It was maybe 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, painted red with black hinges and a brass padlock. I closed the closet door and left it alone. The days developed a rhythm. I woke at 0700, performed the perimeter walk, ate breakfast, checked the generator, cleaned the lightroom windows, inventoried supplies, read, chopped ice from the path to the pier, ate dinner, listened to the wind. The radio checks happened every 3 days as scheduled. Vern's voice crackling through the transceiver at 1000 hours. Barrow Point, this is supply vessel Matanuska, channel 16, over. I confirmed fuel status, weather conditions, and my own health. The conversations lasted less than 2 minutes. On the night of January 7th, I heard my name. It was 2300 hours. I was lying on the cot, not quite asleep, when I heard it clearly through the bedroom window. Daniel. My name spoken in a voice I didn't recognize, flat and uninflected, coming from somewhere east of the tower. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. The voice did not repeat. I stayed in the bedroom until morning. The perimeter walk that day was clear. 73 steps out, 73 back. No figures on the rocks, no new marks in the ice. On January 11th, I found the basement door open. I came down from the light room at noon after cleaning the windows and saw it immediately, the door beneath the spiral staircase standing 6 inches ajar. The darkness beyond it, absolute. I had not touched the door. I had not unlocked it. The brass key was still on the ring in my pocket. I crossed the room, pulled the door shut, and turned the key in the lock. Then I climbed the stairs to the light room and radioed channel 9. The woman who answered was not the same woman I'd spoken to in January. Her voice was older, clipped. Barrow Point, channel 9, state your emergency. This is Daniel Carver, winter caretaker. The basement door was open, I've secured it, no other irregularities. There was a pause. Did you go into the basement? No. Did you see or hear anything unusual? No. Another pause. Maintain normal operations. Note the incident in your log. If the door opens again, evacuate to the light room and wait for instructions. Acknowledge. Acknowledged. The line went silent. I logged the incident, January 11th, 12:07, basement door found open, secured, no entry made, contacted channel 9 per guidelines. That night I heard knocking again. 3 deliberate strikes, evenly spaced, against the exterior door. I was in the light room when it started. I stayed there until dawn, watching the beam rotate across the black water. The supply drop came on January 18th. I heard the horn at 09:33, clean blasts, exactly as described. I went down to the pier and found Vern tying off the Matanuska. He handed up a crate of food, 2 fuel canisters, a plastic sack of mail, and a cardboard box marked medical. You doing all right? He asked. Yes. He studied me for a moment. You look tired? I'm fine. Abram looked tired too near the end. He pushed the crate toward me with his boot. There's a letter in the mail sack, from the office. You should read it tonight. He untied the lines and motored away before I could ask what he meant. The letter was in a manila envelope stamped with the Lighthouse Services emblem. Inside was a single typed page clipped to a handwritten addendum. The typed portion covered updated weather protocols and a revised supply schedule. The next drop would be February 1st instead of February 2nd due to forecasted storms. The addendum was in the same blue ink as Abram's guidelines. Amendments to operational guidelines. 15. If the light fails between 0200 and 0400 hours, do not attempt repair until 0600. Go to the bedroom, close the door, and do not open it until sunrise. 16. If you hear footsteps on the spiral staircase but you are alone in the tower, Count the steps. If the count exceeds 92, remain where you are until the footsteps stop. Do not go to investigate. 17. During storms, the radio may pick up fragmentary transmissions on unauthorized channels. Do not respond to these transmissions. Do not attempt to identify the speakers. Log the time and channel, then switch back to channel 16. 18. If you find your perimeter step count does not match, repeat the walk immediately. If the count does not match on the second attempt, return to the tower and do not go outside until the following day. 19. The light room windows must be cleaned every 3 days. If you see handprints on the exterior glass during cleaning, note the size and position, but do not attempt to identify the source. Finish your cleaning and leave the light room immediately. 20. Between January 22nd and January 24th, do not perform perimeter walks. Remain inside the tower except for generator maintenance. Keep all curtains closed. I read the addendum twice, then pinned it to the wall beside the original guidelines. The current date was January 18th. I had 4 days before the lockdown period. On the night of January 19th, I saw the lights on the water. I was in the light room performing the routine fuel check at 03:15 when I noticed them through the southern window. 4 pale points of light arranged in a rough square, maybe half a mile offshore. They did not move. They did not blink. I watched them for 20 seconds, then forced myself to look away and focus on the fuel gauge. 3/8. I made a note in the log, then climbed down to the main room and refilled the generator from the reserve tank. When I went back to the light room at 0600 to check the automatic timer, the lights were gone. The perimeter walk that morning gave me 73 steps out and 74 steps back. I stopped at the 74th step and looked behind me. The tower was exactly where it should be, white against the gray sky, the light room windows reflecting the dawn. I turned and walked the perimeter again. 73 out, 73 back. I logged the discrepancy. January 20th, 0745 perimeter count. Mismatch on first walk. Second walk matched. No anomalies observed. On January 21st, I heard footsteps on the spiral staircase. It was 1400 hours. I was in the main room inventorying the canned goods from the last supply drop when I heard the slow, deliberate tread of boots on iron steps. I looked up at the staircase. The footsteps continued, ascending steadily. I counted them. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 91, 92. The footsteps stopped. I waited. The silence stretched for 30 seconds, then a minute. Then the footsteps resumed, descending now, the same slow rhythm. I counted again. 92. I did not move until the sound faded completely. The lockdown began at midnight on January 21st. I closed all the curtains, including the small window in the bedroom and the narrow slits in the bathroom. I brought extra water and food up to the light room in case I needed to shelter there for an extended period. The generator maintenance was scheduled for January 23rd at 1000 hours. That would be the only time I went outside. The first night of the lockdown, I heard knocking at 2200 hours and again at 2300 and again at midnight. Each time it was 3 strikes, evenly spaced, neither louder nor softer than before. I sat at the kitchen table with the maintenance manual open in front of me and did not move. At 0200 hours, the radio transceiver in the light room emitted a burst of static. I heard it clearly through the open stairwell, a quick hiss of white noise followed by silence. I did not go upstairs. At 0215 the static came again, longer this time, and beneath it I thought I heard a voice, words I couldn't make out, modulated and strange. At 0230 the transmission ended. The tower was silent until dawn. I performed generator maintenance on the 23rd as scheduled. The walk from the tower door to the generator housing took 41 steps. I counted them twice. Oil level normal. Coolant temperature within range. Fuel reserve at 62%. The sky was the color of old cement. I saw no figures on the rocks, no movement except the slow heave of the sea. 41 steps back to the door. I locked it behind me and returned to the main room. The lockdown ended at midnight on January 24th. I opened the curtains at 0600 on the 25th and performed a perimeter walk at 0730. 73 steps out, 73 back. The rocks were slick with new ice. I saw nothing unusual. The next supply drop was scheduled for February 1st. Vern radioed on January 29th for the routine check. His voice sounded older over the transceiver, more cautious. Barrow Point, how's your fuel? 53%. Weather's been calm. Good. Next drop is 0900 on the 1st. Should be smooth unless the wind picks up. A pause. You still okay out there? Yes. Abram didn't sound okay the last few times we talked, just so you know. I'll be fine. All right. Matanuska out. On the night of January 30th, I smelled smoke. It was 2100 hours. I was sitting at the kitchen table eating rice and canned vegetables when the smell hit me sharp and acrid like burning insulation. I stood and checked the wood stove. Cold. I checked the generator housing through the exterior door. No visible smoke. I climbed to the light room and examined the control panels. All readings normal. The smell was stronger up there, though, concentrated near the northern window. I went back down and checked the exhaust seals on the generator. Intact. The smell was fading now, dissipating into the cold air. I grabbed my coat and went outside, walking a slow circle around the tower. No smoke, no fire, no heat signatures on the stone. I stayed outside for 10 minutes, then went back in and locked the door. The smell was gone. I logged it, January 30th, 2107. Smoke odor, no source identified. Generator seals intact. No entry to basement made. The supply drop came exactly on schedule. Vern handed up the crates, the fuel, the mail. He looked tired. There were new lines around his eyes. You got another letter? He said, nodding at the mail sack. The envelope was identical to the last one, manila, stamped, official. Inside was another typed page and another handwritten addendum. The typed portion covered updated emergency contact protocols and a notice that the March 15th contract end date was firm regardless of weather. The addendum was in the same blue ink. Emergency protocols, storms, loss of power. 21. If the generator fails during a storm, do not attempt outdoor repair. Switch to the backup battery system in the light room. The battery will sustain the light for 6 hours. Remain in the light room until the storm passes. 22. If the backup battery fails, light the emergency flares stored in the red cabinet beside the transceiver. Place one flare in each window of the light room, evenly spaced. Do not leave the light room until sunrise. 23. If you lose all power and all flares, go to the bedroom and lock the door. Do not come out until you hear the supply boat horn or until sunrise, whichever comes first. 24. During whiteout conditions, do not attempt perimeter walks. If you must go outside for generator maintenance, tie a rope from the tower door to the generator housing. Do not untie the rope until you are back inside. 25. If the tower shakes or you hear prolonged grinding sounds from below, evacuate to the light room immediately. Radio channel 9 if possible. Do not investigate the source. I pinned the new addendum beside the others. The wall above the kitchen table was filling with blue ink. February passed in short gray days and long black nights. The routine tightened around me like a fist. Perimeter walks at 0730, generator maintenance every third day, fuel checks at 0315, radio contacts on schedule. I stopped sleeping more than 4 hours a night. I stopped noticing the cold, the tower and the rocks, and the sea became a single unbroken surface of protocol and procedure. and I moved across it with the precision of a machine. On February 9th, I saw a figure on the rocks during my perimeter walk. It was standing at the western edge of my 20-yard radius, maybe 60 feet from the tower, facing the water. It wore a dark coat and a knit cap. I noted the position and continued my walk. When I completed the circuit and returned to the same vantage point, the figure was still there in exactly the same position. I went inside and locked the door. The next morning's perimeter walk was clear. 73 steps out, 73 back. No figure, no footprints in the fresh ice. On February 14th, I found handprints on the lightroom windows. I was cleaning the glass at 1000 hours, working my way clockwise around the room when I saw them on the eastern window, 3 handprints pressed against the exterior glass. The fingers splayed, the palms wide. They were too large to be mine. I noted the size and position in the log. February 14th, 10:22. Handprints on east window, span approx 9 inches. Positioned at center 4 feet above exterior catwalk. I finished cleaning the windows and went downstairs immediately. The supply drop on February 15th brought another letter. This time there was no typed page, only a handwritten note on Lighthouse service stationery. Daniel, you're past the halfway point. The next 4 weeks are the hardest. Abram made it to March 9th before he requested early extraction. I'm telling you this not to discourage you, but to prepare you. If you need to leave early, radio Channel 9 and we'll send a boat within 24 hours, weather permitting. There's no penalty and no judgment. This job isn't for everyone. If you stay, add your own amendments as needed. Trust your instincts. Follow the rules exactly. And remember, the rules exist because they work. Catherine Morse, District Supervisor. I folded the note and put it in the drawer with the others. Then I went outside and performed my perimeter walk. 73 steps out, 73 back. That night the tower shook. It was 01:30. I was lying on the cot, not asleep, when I felt the vibration, a low, grinding shudder that ran through the stone foundation and up through the iron framework of the staircase. It lasted maybe 10 seconds, then stopped. I got up, grabbed the flashlight and the radio, and climbed to the light room. I radioed Channel 9. The same woman answered. Barrow Point, Channel 9. State your emergency. This is Daniel Carver. The tower shook at 01:30. Duration approximately 10 seconds. No visible damage. I'm in the light room. Remain there until sunrise. Do not investigate. Acknowledge. Acknowledged. I stayed in the light room until 0600, watching the Fresnel lens rotate, listening to the wind. The tower did not shake again. The rest of February was storms. 3 separate systems rolled through between the 16th and the 28th, each one bringing 50-knot winds and snow that turned the rocks into faceless white geometry. I tied a rope from the tower door to the generator housing and performed maintenance in near whiteout conditions, counting steps, checking seals, refilling fuel. The generator ran without failure. The light never went dark. On the night of February 23rd, I heard transmissions on the radio during the forbidden window. It was 0240. I was in the bedroom with the door closed when I heard the transceiver crackle to life. I couldn't make out words, only the rhythm of speech, 2 voices, maybe 3, overlapping and distorted. The transmission lasted less than a minute. I noted the time and channel in the log the next morning. February 24th, 0240. Unauthorized transmission on Channel 7, content unintelligible. Did not respond. The final supply drop came on March 1st. Vern tied off the Matanuska and climbed onto the pier himself this time, something he'd never done before. He looked at me carefully. 2 more weeks, he said. Yes. Catherine told me she offered you early extraction. I don't need it. He handed me the crates, the fuel, the mail. There was no letter this time, only a printed form confirming my contract end date and the time of my final pickup, March 15th at 0900. Abram didn't finish his term. Vern said. Thought you should know. You told me that already. I'm telling you again. He stepped back onto the boat. If you hear your name after midnight, don't answer, even if it sounds like someone you know. He motored away before I could ask what he meant. On the night of March 2nd, I heard my name in my mother's voice. It was 0100 hours. I was in the main room boiling water for instant coffee when I heard her call from outside the tower to Daniel. The same flat, uninflected tone I'd heard in January, but the timbre was unmistakable, my mother's voice exactly as I remembered it. I turned off the stove and went to the bedroom. I closed the door and lay on the cot. The voice did not call again. The next morning I opened the kitchen window curtain without thinking. It was 0700, still dark outside, and I had forgotten to close the curtain the night before. I saw my mistake immediately and pulled the curtain shut, then went through the tower, checking all the exterior doors. Locked. I checked the basement door. Locked. I climbed to the light room and verified the radio channels. 16 and 9, as always. Then I performed my perimeter walk, 73 steps out, 73 back. That night I heard knocking at 2200 hours, 2300 hours, midnight, 0100 and 0200. 5 separate sequences, each one 3 strikes, each one identical in rhythm and force. I stayed in the bedroom until dawn. On March 7th, I found the red footlocker unlocked. I was retrieving a wool blanket from the storage closet at 1400 hours when I saw it, the padlock hanging open on its hasp, the lid closed but unsecured. I stared at it for 5 seconds. Then I reached out, closed the padlock without opening the lid, and climbed to the light room. I radioed Channel 9. Catherine Morse herself answered this time. Barrow Point, Channel 9. This is Daniel Carver. The red footlocker was unlocked. I secured it without looking inside. No other irregularities. A long pause. Are you certain you didn't open it? I'm certain. All right, noted in your log. Perform a full inventory of all supplies and equipment. If anything is missing or out of place, radio immediately. Otherwise, maintain normal operations. Acknowledged. I performed the inventory that afternoon. Every item was accounted for. I logged the incident. March 7th, 1418. Red footlocker found unlocked. Secured without opening. Full inventory completed. No discrepancies. The final week was the longest. The days were getting brighter, the sun rising earlier and setting later, but the nights still felt infinite. I stopped eating regular meals. I stopped reading. I performed the routines with mechanical precision perimeter walks, fuel checks, generator maintenance, window cleaning, and spent the rest of my time in the light room, watching the beams sweep across the water. On March 10th, I heard footsteps on the staircase again. It was 0300 hours. I was in the light room performing the fuel check when I heard them below me, slow, deliberate steps ascending from the main room. I counted. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 91, 92, 93. The footsteps continued. 94, 95, 96. I backed away from the stairwell and pressed myself against the northern window. The footsteps stopped at 104. I waited. The silence was absolute except for the low hum of the generator and the slow rotation of the Fresnel lens. After 2 minutes, the footsteps resumed, descending now. I counted them down: 104, 103, 102, all the way to 0. Then the tower was silent again. I stayed in the light room until dawn. On March 14th, I performed my final perimeter walk. 73 steps out, 73 back. The rocks were dry for the first time since January. The ice reduced to scattered patches in the shadows. I could see the shape of the island clearly now, a rough oval maybe 200 yards long and 100 yards wide, rising to a shallow peak where the tower stood. No trees, no soil, just stone and lichen and the marks of winter. That night I packed my duffel bags and cleaned the main room. I washed the dishes, swept the floor, organized the remaining supplies in the closet. At midnight, I sat down at the kitchen table and wrote my own amendment on a sheet of lined paper. 26. If you hear footsteps on the spiral staircase and the count exceeds 92, the footsteps will stop at 104. Do not go to investigate. Remain in the light room until they descend. I folded the paper and placed it on top of the existing guidelines. Then I went to the bedroom and lay on the cot for the last time. Vern arrived at 0850 on March 15th. I heard the horn 3 clean blasts and carried my bags down to the pier. He took them without comment and stowed them in the Matanuska's cabin. You did good, he said. Not many finish the winter. Did Abram leave amendments? Yeah, 15 through 20. I left 26. Vern nodded slowly. Someone else will read it. Someone else will need it. I climbed onto the boat and looked back at the lighthouse. The tower stood white and clean against the morning sky, the light room windows reflecting the sun. The rocks around it were dry and black and empty. You want to know what Abram saw? Vern asked. No. He started the engine and untied the lines. Good answer. The boat pulled away from the pier and turned south toward Dutch Harbor. I watched the lighthouse shrink behind us, the white tower against the black rock, the light still rotating even in daylight, sweeping its beam across the empty sea. I watched until the island disappeared below the horizon. Then I went into the cabin and closed the door. I never asked what was in the red footlocker. I never asked what happened to Abram. I never asked what the footsteps were counting. Some questions are better left unanswered. Some rules are better left unbroken. And some jobs are better left to the next person.